The indigents of Osun State have made their choice on who they want to lead them for the next 4 years. A total of 403,371 of them voted Senator Ademola Adeleke of the PDP to defeat incumbent and APC governorship candidate Gboyega Oyetola, who got 375,027 votes in what has been described as a keenly contested race. According to reports, Senator Adeleke's victory did not come easy. It is said to have been aided by a number of factors, including unresolved leadership crisis in the APC, issues with selection of traditional rulers, the governor's inability to pay 30-month salary and pension arrears owed during the Rauf Aregbesola administration, among others. To help us throw more light on this, we have in the studio a political commentator, Adewale Adeoye. Good morning, Adewale. It's good to have you join us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of some of the issues and what happened and what didn't happen, or what should happen and didn't happen, what is your general overview of the outcome of the conduct of the election in Osun State?
Well, I think if you look at it very well, it was an off-season election. I think INEC has improved tremendously. Less than 24 hours, the results were released. And people could monitor the election through the INEC portal. There was no cases of, violence, profound cases of, compared with what we have had in the past. Snatching of ballot papers, killings, those things have been minimized. And I also think that, irrespective of what anyone might say, the issue of religion didn't come in, even though we're talking about Muslim ticket and all that. People voted for the candidate they felt was better. Look at the PDP candidate. He attended primary school, Methodist primary school. He started and completed in Nawaruddin Muslim school in Ikere. From there, he went to Seventh-day Adventist secondary school and completed his secondary school in Ede Muslim school. So the other candidate is also a Muslim. So when people begin to talk about, religion and all that, we overemphasize, what really doesn't really matter to people when it comes to choosing, their political leaders.
Especially in the Southwest.
Yes, especially in the Southwest, okay. And I believe that Adeleke and both Oyetola, they both received both Christian and even animist votes and atheist votes. So it's a great lesson for us to also know that in that state, even though the APC was defeated, the margin was 20,232. It shows clearly that both APC and PDP are formidable parties in that state, and that this may not actually show the signpost the 2023 election. The two parties are very strong, and the pendulum could swing anywhere, in the coming election, especially in the context of the by-election is expected to be conducted for the senator that will replace Senator Adeleke. So both parties still need to work hard to,
Now, people have said that it is also important to raise the issue of the Aregbesola fact.
Yes, obviously. I think a combination of many factors led to the outcome of that election. The issue of Aregbe is just one, but it's not the only factor. The parties...
It's a decisive factor.
I think it's very difficult to measure whether it was decisive. But I think it was a major factor, but not the only major factor. If you look at the party itself, I think the campaign mechanism was very weak. The elections we have had in Osun State in the past, the elections have always been more or less like a regional election. People moving in large numbers from Ekiti State to Osun, from Lagos State, even free trains being provided. But in this case, and even a huge number of people coming from Côte d'Ivoire. We have about over 3 million Yoruba people living in Côte d'Ivoire.
We come and campaign.
Yes, majority of them are from Osun State. Every election, they will come in large numbers. And you see a lot of civil society organizations moving to Osun State. That didn't happen, this election. There was a kind of, the cold feet campaign on the part of the APC. Even the media campaign was very weak. They could not energize the people. They could not galvanize the people.
But we see a large turnout of voters in Osun State.
Yes, compared with the people, the registered voters, we have about 1.9 registered voters, and then about 1.47 collected PVCs. So when you now compare with the total number of votes, about 800,000, in terms of percentage, it's still not enough. It means that we still have about 1 million people out there that didn't vote. And I think the party could have done a lot in terms of mobilizing them, to come and vote on that Saturday.
It's still on the Adegbeshola factor. It is said that Adegbeshola, of course, there were videos showing about him dancing over what happened, and they said that he supported the Labour Party candidate at DOT and all of that. And should he be doing that openly for a party? Is that not an act of anti-party activity? Is there no way, in most cases when things like that happen, there ought to be some kind of disciplinary action taken? Yeah. What he did itself, how does it come out, even within the APC as a party?
I think the election was a kind of defeat for the party, defeat for Adegbeshola himself, and also defeat for the incumbent governor. So it was an ill wind that blew no one any good.
Yeah.
So, and I think in politics, we have to look at our strategic interest and then look at long-term and short-term interest. I think it was unfortunate that there was no reconciliation before the election. It would have been a great thing if Adegbeshola's group and Oyetola's group had marched together to consider the larger interests of the party, to consider the larger interests of members of that party in that state. So I think what they did was wrong. They should have been able to find a common ground. If they had done that, I believe that the APC would have won that election.
But there were meetings. Yeah, there were meetings and meetings.
Yeah, from what we have read, I understand Ashwaju even made attempts to reconcile them. But when two people decided to take extreme positions, no matter what effort you make, reconciliation might be very difficult. I understand Ashwaju actually sent Alhaji Masari from Katsina State, who came to Osun and met all the factions. And also Babako, they made efforts. But the two actors appear to have, taken extreme positions. Yeah, they were digging in. So, and I think their supporters decided to follow the footpaths of their principals. I think it was a very unfortunate thing because, Adegbeshola is the Minister of Interior. It's a high position up there. The governor is also the governor of the state, and he needed first time. They should have been able to find a common ground, so that at the end of the day, the interest of the party will have been topmost, on the scale of preference.
I think the governor thought that there's no way I cannot win as the governor, and the other one said, well, as the Yoruba says, Adabaru everything, I will scatter everything and bring it out. I use the Samson syndrome and put everything down. If I cannot get it, I bring it down.
Yeah,
so it was a case of irreconcilable differences.
That if the leper could not meet the cow, at least they can spill the milk. I think it's a very bad thing, and I hope that both parties will learn that if you don't find a common ground, if you don't reconcile yourself, at the end of the day, you are going to lose out. Because to regain that, what you have lost is not going to be very easy, considering the margin, though narrow, but then I think they have lost that party. And even going to court is going to take a very long time. But I think there is still room for them if they can reconcile. There is still prospect because you are still, the governor is going to contend with a largely dominated House of Assembly, dominated by APC. And then there's going to be a House of Assembly election next year. Yeah. So if the party can reconcile, they still have the potential to upturn the table.
But this is just one side of the story. It still could have won in spite of this crisis.
Yeah, but we have so many grounds to suspect that he probably could have lost. Because if you look at the Igesha area, where Adegbeshola comes from, the PDP made a very good showing in those areas, which was not like that before. So I think if you also look at Ila, where Baba Akande comes from, you know, the PDP also made, you know, opened new frontiers in those areas. So, and I think that could have happened if Adegochola was at home, you know, he had, you know, it was not in Elisha. You know, it was not.
But Adegochola did not, even in the first election that brought Oyetola in. Adegochola did not. Oyetola did not do so well in Elisha.
Yes,
because of the Adegochola factor.
Yes, but you know,
they said that it was a referendum on that. It was analyzed as a referendum on Adegochola that the Elisha people were not happy with Adegochola. That is why they voted down APC in Elisha.
Yeah, but I'm aware that in the past 4 years there have been so many reconciliation meetings between Adegochola and Igesha leaders. You know, and I believe that it would have been a different result if, you know, it was at home to mobilize his people, you know, to support the APC.
But there's another factor too, that this was an open door for the governor to come in and use his office and his clout as governor to actually win. Why was he not able to do that? Even in Baba Akande's area.
I think
we'll go to Ife later. Yeah.
I think the governor appears to be an introvert politically, and it doesn't really help when you are leading a society like that. You know, you need to come out. You know, how many of his videos do we watch? You know, where he was going out talking to people, mobilizing people. I mean, I was robbed of that excitement, and I think if you had done that, you know, mobilize the people, galvanize them, culturally, socially, and politically, I think the result will be quite different compared with what we have on Saturday.
Because that gives opportunity to connect with the people on one-on-one.
Yes.
All right. Well, political parties don't agree or accept that we actually give monies to buy this or buy that. Observers, we see money is flying here and there, and the issue of vote buying. The electorates can accept, oh, I collected money, and can even propagate the story. If you go and collect your money, they are sharing. But political parties don't agree that we shared money. Now, looking at what's happened, what factor did money play in the outcome of this whole election in Osun State?
Well, generally, you know, elections all over the world involves a lot of money. You have to print posters, you have to mobilize the people, you have to do radio jingles, you have to do advertisements. So, but in terms of giving out money to people, it has become a recurrent decimal in Nigerian politics, and we cannot deny it. You know, and I think politicians may not agree openly, but I think in their bedrooms, they know that they do give money to voters for them to, and the increasingly is becoming difficult to prove because these funds are shared after people have casted their votes, and I think or even before, and I think we cannot hold one particular party responsible. I think it's a common feature even among the smaller parties. You know, they do give money; they may not give enough, but I think in trying to eliminate this problem, we all need to work together. We're all stakeholders. You know, the media, the political parties, and law enforcement agents. We hope in the future we can put this behind us so that people can be elected based on their credibility. Because if you give money to me, that means that you have settled me. I have no moral right to question whether the government is good or not because I've taken my own part of the cake. So I think it's a virus that we all need to work together to eliminate.
In the election in Ekiti, we have had it in such a way that it has been a revolving door between APC and PDP, APC and PDP. When Fayemi lost the first time, I wrote an article called The Nanny State, in which what Fayemi did was to do a lot of roads, he did the Kogosi, he did all of that. But he also had money that he was giving to the poor and all of that. And they said, you are giving this money to the poor, you're not giving it, it did not come down to a lot of us. And the roads you are doing is so fine, but we don't even know you as governor. You're just there sitting in his government house, going to places and giving position papers in Lagos and all of that. So they removed him, and they looked for somebody who was buying bole on the streets and eating with the people. You can have all the roads, but this man is eating bole with me. It's more like me.
Yeah.
Now, move forward to Oshun. We have a man who is dancing, who is laughing, and who's all of that. And then another man who is ensconced inside the state house and is doing roads and all of that. Is this another version of what we saw with Fayemi and Fayose? Is that the other version we are seeing here with Oyetola and Adeleke?
Yeah, I think it's similar. But we have to also look at it in historical context. In the past 30 years, there has been a lot of changes in our sociology, in our culture, in our values. Little things are enough to make us draw this conclusion. In those days, when you are traveling on the highway, you are looking for a free ride. People are anxious to take you, and they will not take money from you. But these days, nobody wants to take a free ride. And even nobody wants to take somebody on the highway. So in those days, at Christmas time, people will cook food in the neighborhood and bring to your table. You cook only pounded yam. You have about 15 dishes from your neighbors. But these days, nobody wants to cook, and even nobody wants to take from your neighbor. So the mutual trust in the society, the communal spirit has been destroyed. And this has to be traced to the years of military rule, whereby, the will of the people was subverted, through the barrels of the gun, through bullets. So over the years, people's mentality of perception of what is good or what is bad, has been perverted. Remember that there was a decimation of the academic community by the military. Patrick Wilmot, the ASU, people were sent away. So we are being told that ideas don't make meaning. People you can gain fame. You can gain financial progress without necessarily thinking of ideas. And I think those are the things that perverted our sense of judgment. We call pure water. Poor water. It's actually poor water. We call it pure water. Yeah. So our sense of judgment has been perverted over the years. And I think that's why there's a kind of change in psychology, in the psyche of our people, in our sociology, our value system, our concept of what is good and what is bad. And that has affected tremendously our politics and our judgment of what is right and who is a good leader, who is a bad leader. Awolowo was not the kind of person that would be, eating ball with people. But people were voting for him. They were ready to die for him because of what he stood for. The same thing with Zeke, but this past year...
Zeke was a colorful man.
Yeah, very colorful man.
But Awolowo had a lot of strong people who were connecting with people.
Yes, who are connecting. That is true. Yes, who are working with people, relating with them, based on programs.
And they were distributing rice, they were doing Awolowo's style, contributing food, and so on.
Yeah.
But they subordinated it to the idea.
Yes.
But we were doing ideas, but we were still connecting with the people at the grassroots.
Yeah, Awolowo, I remember that, he was in one village very close to and he spent about 2 days there, relating with the people. And I remember that I worked in an hotel in Osun State before. Awolowo came there, slept there, just a rural hotel. So there were leaders who are going from, he was in Warri, he will meet with riverine people, communities, relate with them, spend days there. Not just we just take a helicopter, go there and then go and sleep in Lagos. So, the kind of politicians we had in those days, we don't have them any longer. So I think when you talk about how people view their leaders, people are looking at what they can gain today. They are not thinking of tomorrow. In the days of how we are talking about the 5 cardinal points: integrated rural development, free education, free health. Those were the factors that propel people, to the extent that when the election was rigged in the Ekiti state, in those states, people wanted to lay down their lives because they knew that their future was being taken away from them. But that has changed, in these past years. And I hope that we can get back, reclaim our heritage, where people will vote for leaders based on...
But you've not really answered my question on regard to, is this a kind of replay? The Oyetola, Adeleke.
I think so.
And Fayemi, like, okay, we have had this man who is kind of boring. I remember they asked a question to the Labour Party man in London. So they ask you, he said, why are you so boring? Like somebody asked the question, why are you Labour leaders? Why are you so boring?
I think Ekiti State had that experience. And I think to a large extent they regretted it. We have a politician now who is with his hip-hop sign, who has not come up with a program of action on environment, on security, on how to transform the the landscape, in Osun State. But people just feel, oh, he can sing, he can dance, let's give him a chance. And I hope in the next 12 months, people will sit down. There'll be a moment for sober reflections.
Yeah, just like they did in Ekiti.
In Ekiti State.
They had to come back to fire.
And then you have to come back.
And Fire me also had to learn
yeah,
this lesson.
we have to learn this lesson to connect with the people again. So in the next 12 months, I think we'll be able to...
What happened in Ife in spite of Omishore?
I think in Ife, I believe that the APC overestimated its strength,
Or could it be the same shadow of Oyetola being cast over the influence of Omishore?
Yeah, I think the APC didn't do enough campaign. The campaign was not enough in those areas, just like in many other areas. How many times, for instance, do we even watch the governor Oyetola on TV, on radio? Compared with what we used to have in the past. How many times do you have a situation where, he invited people to come and talk about his programs? I remember that, in the past, the governor of Osun State used to invite pan-Yoruba groups, hunters, Agbekoya, self-determination groups. They will be in the Osun State. You'll be talking to them. These are my shipments. These are my plans for the people. But that didn't happen. So I believe that there's a kind of cold complicity on the part of the governor himself. Didn't come out to really campaign for the people.
You refer to him as a political introvert.
Yeah.
They're being political.
Yes.
It's all right. Now, let's look at INEC in the conduct of this election. A lot of people compared INEC to the Ekiti election and said that INEC had actually improved in this. But how do you assess the quality of the conduct of this election in Ekiti State?
In Osun State?
In Osun State,
yeah,
sorry.
I think from what we have seen, the materials came in on time. Where fingerprints did not work, they were used to, they used capture. They were able to use pictures. Even
the beavers.
Adeleke, his fingerprints did not, but they were able to capture him. And I also think that in terms of relaying the results, immediately to the people, it was quite impressive, And in terms of security, the police, 21,000 policemen were deployed. I think they really performed wonderfully well. And I also think there was this sick mentality that we used to have in the past. You cannot travel to Osun because the election is holding. I think maybe because of season election, but I think we can replicate the same thing across the country. I think INEC has actually improved, and I think we should give them kudos. We are impressed by what is happening, in that area.
Okay.
The Oyetola era was also an era in which he did a lot of work. He was able to sanitize the finances. He was able to pay salaries, but they said that the ones that were owing, they were not able to be paid. And he did a lot of some very good infrastructure work around the state in education. He kind of sanitized something, put a lot of all of these stuff in place in the state. Is there a sense in which we can get to a stage where your work in politics can just speak for you? Is it possible in Nigeria at this time?
Well, I think it is possible. It is also left for the governor if he decides to blow his trumpet or not. Because if you claim that you have achieved so much and you build a road, for instance, in Oriade, and that road is only known to people living in that community, you are not blowing your trumpet, you are not inviting the media, you are not, bringing in media people to let people know what you are doing. You are going to pay for it. Yes. Because what you are doing is not just for people in that area. It's for the state. It's for the community.
Even letting the other people know that we've finished from here, we might come to you soon.
Yes.
It's an ongoing thing.
Yes. And if you are not careful,
I
you may even
visited the
consult
state.
some roads and people will not know you are the one that built it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a particular state I don't want to mention where the governor started, he took over. And actually, let me mention, it's Governor Obi.
Yeah.
Okay.
He took over, and some of the roads that Ngege did, it's not about president himself.
Yeah. And a lot of people will believe him.
And people will start believing that you did it.
They will ascribe
There was
those
another
achievements.
state. There was another state in which, when I got there, the cab driver was saying, this road used to be very bad. but this governor don't do am. I thank her. But why they fight with your guy? We was talking about Jonathan.
Yeah.
And this was when Amechi was governor.
Yeah.
I was in Rivers that time when Amechi was governor. I was visiting. So the driver had passed a road that was bad and had been repaired, and the cab driver was very grateful for him, but was happy, but not grateful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was happy but not grateful because Jonathan as a factor was more. Loyalty to Jonathan was more important than doing that road.
Yes.
For that road. He said, why they fight with Oga?
Yeah.
Didn't know that even a president is not the Oga of any government.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the people voted him, not the president.
Yes, not the
Although our
president.
governors also act as though the president is an Oga.
Yeah.
So that's it. But that's what tells you how in the local politics you can spin a good work against the person who did it.
Sure. That's true.
Yeah.
You know, when we are talking about one laptop, one child in Osun State, there was offensive and defensive publicity, massive publicity. But do you know that program actually started in the State a few months earlier? But everyone was talking about was in Osun State because of the publicity attached to it, especially in this age of social media. That a single text message that you send to a child, who has a telephone, it tells his mother, and the mother believes that story. So if you have achieved so much, but people are not aware, then you are going to pay dearly for it. And I hope people will learn. That's not just building rules and all that. You also need to
if you build a red, let the people know that you build the road.
Of course. How is it called again in Yoruba? The computer, the Okwo something.
Okwo,
exactly.
They coined the Yoruba name for it.
And they forgot that Fayemi had already started.
Yeah, he started it. But there was less publicity. That we thought you had.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up now, but let's talk about this briefly. A lot of persons you will hear that. What happened in Ekiti or what happened in Osun State is a litmus test, is a reflection or a peep into what 2023 is going to look like. I wonder how we're going to benchmark 2023 in what just happened now, either from the political party perspective, the electorate's enlightenment perspective, or the INEC, who is the umpire perspective.
Well, in one way, we can say that what happened in Ekiti State and Osun State reflects what may happen in 2002, in the sense that the performance of INEC these days, it's not about ballot stuffing; it's about people coming out to vote. But in other areas, in terms of the outcome of the votes, that may not necessarily reflect what will happen. For instance, I think that presidential election in Osun State may not follow the same pattern. And also when in Osun State, because I believe APC is going to come out, with, the performance will be greater. People will turn out to vote more than, they have their.
There was a video in which some young men they were asking some people how they were going to vote in the election, and they said for the governorship, they say. Adeleke knew it's Adeleke. They were saying it.
Yes.
And then they said, what of presidential? They say Ashiwaju.
Yeah.
So you see that at the same time they knew where they were. So they knew the distinction.
They know. They are very intelligent. The masses are very intelligent. Sometimes ahead of us.
Yes.
They know what they are doing. You are going to see different in a presidential election. And I believe APC will get more votes. But also they need to go out to get non-state actors to mobilize people, those people that are not voting, almost 1 billion nations, they need to be conditioned to come out.
That's a lot of votes. All right, we have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Adewale Adeoye, for your insight and analysis of all of that that happened in Osun State. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.